right, welcome to today's episode of Tomorrow's Leader, where we dive deep on all things leader related to leading yourself and leading others. I'm John Laurito, your host. Thank you for joining us today. I've got Rob Nickell, the founder and CEO of Rocket Station, joining us today. I'm really excited to have you, Rob. Thank you for joining.
Excited to be here. I really appreciate the time, John.
Yeah, you're in sunny Dallas. We're in December and it's 75 degrees and sunny. You got the life, man.
Cannot complain. I've been spending many a days recently at the golf course trying to soak it all in before it gets too cold.
I love it. Man. I'd be there. I'd be right there with you. Well, it's great to have you on the show, and I know we were chatting a little bit about some of the things that that you've been going through. You founded Rocket Station in 2018. I know that was kind of the second iteration of the company. It sounds like you guys are doing some great things, and I do want to talk a little bit about the company. But I wanted to start with your philosophy, because you said something that really caught my attention, and that many business owners and leaders, as they're building and growing a business, they think about, okay, I got to hire this person or these people, and then let me figure out the systems and the processes to have them work through. And your philosophy is it really should be backwards. It should be, or that's backwards. It should be the other way, where you start with building out the systems and the processes and then figure out the people. Is that right?
Yeah, entrepreneurs and business leaders are amazing at taking action, and a lot of their success is usually because of their willingness to take action and go kick through some doors and run through some walls and get some stuff done. But as you grow and you progress and you reach a certain size, it's like, if there's fires happening, we just view fires as opportunities. That means there's opportunities to solve an upstream problem before a fire should ever get created. And so we think if you throw people into a situation where there's already fires and there's not enough systems, processes, structure, clarity in place, then just hiring people is going to create more stress, more anxiety, more problems than were there to begin with. So yeah, we think if you start by putting some structure in place, then you think about putting people there, then you're going to have a whole lot easier time.
Well, and it makes a ton of sense. I remember a mistake I made once. I was so focused on just finding great people. I found a great individual, I remember, and didn't really quite have the role designed and defined, and brought him in too early. There wasn't really anything behind it other than, okay, I got a great person, part of my organization, let's figure it out together. And it just ended up backfiring big time. So I hear you big time from my own experience. Do you think leaders, that's pretty common, right? That type of mistake?
Yeah, your willingness to hire great people is admirable. I mean, we try to do the same thing. If we find somebody super talented, we want to make sure and bring them in and get them going in the organization. And I was lucky to have a mentor that asked me a really, really great question once. I was having a hard time managing, hiring, training, the whole process, the people problem in my business. And I was kind of doing the traditional complaining about saying things like finding good people is hard, and then managing good people is even harder. And, turnover really sucks, and those types of things. And my mentor looked at me and he just said, and he was dead serious. He said, "Do you think people want to do a good job?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "You're complaining about, managing people and the chaos and the anxiety you have, and you hate driving into your office because you have to manage all these people." It's like, do you think the people that are in your office that you've hired, do you think that they want to do a good job? And I thought about it for a second. I was like, of course they want to do a good job. And he said, yeah, if you believe that people want to be fulfilled, if they want to be content, if they want to do a good job, which I believe, and I hope you believe too, then it's your job to empower them to have the success that you're expecting. And if you want to hold somebody accountable, there better be some systems and processes and structure to hold them accountable too. And so for me, John, the big aha moment was realizing that I was the problem in every sense. All these people problem that I was having in the business were really just problems because I hadn't done what I needed to do to empower my teams to do what I was expecting from them.
That's great. A great point. And I love that. Can you give, for the listeners that are out there that might be thinking and saying, boy, okay, this is resonating with me. I kind of think I understand what Rob's talking about. Can you give an example of what that might look like to develop when you say the systems and the processes first?
Yeah. So for example, there's a lot, we do a few things really well. So I'll just talk about those things, what we do. I'm not going to, won't really talk outside my expertise, but like for inside sales, for example, sales teams are oftentimes, sales is the lifeblood of the business. So we want to hire great salespeople. And then we look at their task man, what they're responsible for every single day. Well, they're responsible for generating leads, whether that's from LinkedIn or wherever, like cold calling, prospecting. They're responsible for generating leads. They're responsible for setting appointments, for showing up on those calls, making sure people actually get there and show up on those calls, and then rescheduling if they don't, get contracts signed. The whole sales pipeline, it's long, arduous, it's complicated. It takes a lot of work, each one of those phases. So a really great salesperson, if they're doing all of those tasks, what's the likelihood? What's the chance of them having that much success? It's not a ton. So if we want to get that person some help to do the setting, the calendar management, the chasing, the herding of the cats, which a lot of sales is, if we want to get some help to support our rockstar salesperson, before we just hire somebody, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through every single step of that sales process to make sure that every step, every task, every single thing that's done, from logins, how do you log in, how do you access information, where do you, if it's CRM managed, what's expected of me, how do you push people through the pipeline, what are the different phases mean, what's kind of the lingo of the sales process. We want to document all of that step by step, so that we have a living, breathing training resource and manual for someone else to be able to use. So we want to think long term. We're planting seeds today so that we can reap the rewards of the future. And so it does a couple things. By documenting every single thing, you're going to get some great clarity and alignment about what's happening through the process. So oftentimes you'll find inefficiencies and ways to improve the process by just taking a few steps back and documenting the entire thing. It's amazing what you'll learn from that process, and the team really comes together, and that's a great experience in itself. But now hiring somebody and having an onboarding process and being able to train them and have the resources to do that pre-built is going to allow for somebody to come in and just absolutely crush it from the beginning. And we don't believe in these really long ramp up periods. It shouldn't take somebody 90, 120, 180 days to kind of figure out their job, because they're learning it through osmosis, somebody just kind of telling them how to do their job all day. No, we have structures, we have processes for how everything works. So now an inside salesperson can come in, support the team, get running really quickly, be a revenue generator for the team, and add a lot of value, right at the beginning, and reduce that startup, that anguish, that whole like chaos of like, what do I do with this person? And, if we hear sometimes somebody say, well, if I hire somebody, it takes twice as long. I could just do it myself by the time it's like, no. It's because we need to put some structure in place. There needs to be clarity. There needs to be systems from the beginning. Yeah. And then so then what if you need to hire a second inside sales rep? Well, now we have a process for integrating, and all of a sudden hiring, managing people becomes so much easier. And then John, culture. Now we could have a great culture because we got structure, clarity, and alignment. So it all kind of builds. Yeah, and for us, the building blocks, it's all in the foundation, and the foundation is systems and processes, clean structure.
Well, it's interesting because you brought up a very valid point. There's a lot of times just by writing that, by documenting that, you can find where your process might be broken or too many steps in it, or even unclear. I mean, I see with a lot of businesses, a lot of leaders, the leader, he or she may be able to write out or describe what a process is based on what they want or what they assume the process is, but then you run it by the rest of the team or the rest of the organization, and everybody's got a different understanding of what the process is. So do you come across that a lot, where it's not a function of having a process, it's a function of having everybody be on the same page with the process?
All the time. And companies don't become successful by being bad at what they do. So it's not like everything in every business is just broken. That's pretty rare, right? Companies get to where they are because they do some things really, really well. And that's one of the most fun things about what we get to do as a company, is we get to be a part of these amazing organizations doing really, really cool things, right? Yeah. But there's opportunity everywhere. And if you've been doing a business even for a few years, by the time you get 2, 3, 4, 5 years into a business, much less 10, 15, 20 years later, things just start happening in the day-to-day because they happen, right? Because people just do it. They make assumptions. And as things change a little bit, we've all seen, if you're a couple degrees off. By the time it gets way away, you're way off the mark, right? And that happens in organizations all the time, where it starts off really tight and really clean because you either have a few people doing it, it's new, or it's just the business owner. And then over time, things tend to get a little more inefficient, a little more flow, just because that's kind of the natural progression. People kind of move away from the structure. And so if you've got everything documented and you have clear SOPs and you have clear training manuals, then all of that, people want to know what's expected. People don't want to guess. And so the more clarity that you can provide, you're just going to create more stability. You're actually going to create a happier workforce by creating more structure. It's not about micromanaging to tasks. It's about creating a path for people to know what success looks like.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And bottom line, there's no way you can scale a business without really getting the systems and the processes right and clear and consistent all across the board. So I see a lot of businesses that hit that ceiling of complexity. They hit a certain level and they just can't grow. They can't get out of their own way almost. And that's sometimes the issue, is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and companies are really good at their core competencies. Like we see it all the time. We've done this. We have hundreds of accounts right now that we work for, and have seen many more. And it's a very similar story where it's, software companies are amazing at developing software, and healthcare providers are great at providing healthcare. And we're a lot in real estate. And so you've got great real estate operators that are really good at taking care of people's needs and finding how to really serve and add value within those communities. But business isn't all about the core competencies.